Boom. So what's today? August 10th, 2022. Yesterday was my late mother's birthday. Always a day of mixed feelings on a day where your mother is, living on in spirit, but not here in her physical body. But we were able to gather as a family prior to her birthday to really celebrate just being together, the family, even though it wasn't an intentional thing, it just kind of happened. And I was kind of glad that we're able to do that. With that said, today I am going to share with you the answers to the questions that you guys asked. So I much rather answer questions that are burning a hole in your heart and is taking up space in your mind, where I can help you relieve those problems, give you the answers you need so you can move forward with more certainty and more clarity. So before I begin, can you guys hear me okay? Can you see me okay? If you have any questions, whether I'm doing while I'm doing this live or after the fact you're watching and recording, go ahead and put them in the chat. Doesn't matter what platform you're watching it on. I love to answer the questions. I love to help out where I can. And if I end up missing your question, send me a DM or something so I get alerted to whatever questions you have, and I'll be glad to answer them. Oh, what's up, Lamar? Glad to hear that you can hear and see me. All right. All right. So first question is, we're going to talk about the different types of offer letters that can go out there. Now, I happen to have a couple here. This is the postcard that I send my prospects. I used to send an offer letter and it looked like junk mail. I still get those from other land investors who don't realize I sold the property they're asking about years ago. But whatever. And I actually did it a few different ways. So the question is the neutral letter versus the offer letter versus like the range. How do I use those, or, which one is better, so to speak? And how do I come up with the prices? Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. It's actually the bread and butter of your business, because here's why. A lot of people, especially it don't gotta be newbies. It can be people who've been doing this for a while. When they start getting a dry spell, very often it's because the offers are not enticing enough. Now, dry spell in general just means you're not getting any type of responses. I'm not saying that everybody you talk to is going to say, yeah, and they're going to sell for the price that you want. But if you're not in there, like in the pocket, going out, making deals, or at least negotiating with people and trying to make something happen, this business feels very, very lonely. And it feels like, oh my God, everything is going wrong. Now, I'm sure there's another alternative I just sent out a text campaign for a bunch of offers as we speak, and I'm getting replies. Anyways, it can still lonely if you're getting a bunch of people responding and you're talking to them, but they're nowhere close to what you're looking to offer. That sucks too. So this is why having a difference between the offer range, the blind offer, and the neutral letter comes in. So let me first define a couple of terms. The offer range is what I prefer, right? Where you're saying, hey, I'm looking to pay between X and Y for your property or per acre in your area. And that way you can kind of use a little bit of math to kind of let the person know the ballpark figure of what you're looking to offer the person's property. So for example, if you're looking to offer between 500 and $1,000 per acre in a certain area, and the person owns 2 acres, so you're going to probably be offering between $1,000 and $2,000. They kind of get that in their mind. If it's only a half an acre, then you kind of divide that by 2. So $250 to $500 for that property. That's roughly how it goes. Now, why do I like the offer range as opposed to just giving them, hey, I'm gonna pay you this and this is what it is? Well, number one, before I answer that, let me give you the other things, and I think you might understand why I like the offer range a little bit more. The offer price, I used to do that a lot. And sometimes I would make it look like it was a computer calculated thing where it would be like an odd number, like instead of saying like 5,000, it'll be like $5,010.23, something like that, right? And then I did that just so people would think, oh, I really calculated a bunch of things, and here's the offer, the calculations came to. It's nothing personal. Nothing else worry about what people thought. I don't care about that anymore. But that's the offer, and some people like that because you kind of get down to brass tacks. This is what I'm going to give you, take it or leave it. And then you have the neutral letter where you're like, hey, I'm looking to buy a property, or it's yours for sale. Will you sell it to me? So when you have the offer, what happens is a lot of people, it depends on who you're talking to and all that, but a lot of people, they do not like If they don't like your offer, they don't call you. They don't realize that there's room for negotiation. Also, when that offer is quote unquote too low, sometimes the too low is not even that low. Where let's just say, for example, you're willing to pay $1,000 total for a property, and the person in question, they want $1,500. They see your $1,000 offer and they're like, oh, that's too low, I'm not going to take it. Even though you guys are kind of within the same ballpark, right? Maybe you won't pay $1,500, maybe you'll pay $1,200, and that's still okay with you. But when you have that number, it doesn't let people know. Even when you say in the letter, I'm willing to negotiate, a lot of people, they don't read it carefully, the letter, because again, it's junk mail to them. And they're just like, you know, forget it. I wanted a certain price. I'm not getting it. I'm done. And they throw it away. So I don't do offers anymore. I don't do neutral letters either, where you don't have a price. You know why? Because you get a bunch of people who are basically going to use you as a property appraiser. They're just going to call you to see what can they get for the property, even though they have no intention of selling, unless you say something stupid like, oh, I'll give you $1 million for your quarter-acre property in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to do that. So I like to save my time, and I don't want to talk to people who are not interested in selling. Now, here's the thing. People may be interested with a blind or neutral letter, but if they're not looking to sell, or they're not willing to negotiate within the range I'm about to give them, it's a waste of both of our time. I need to respect my time, and I want to respect theirs. So if I'm looking to buy a property for 1,000, they don't want to sell for no less than 5, we're too far apart. And there's nothing that I'm going to be able to say to convince them to do something they don't want to do. That's just not how humans work. So I always do the offer range, because that says, hey, I'm flexible with what I'm offering you, but this is my limit. And usually the offer range, in my opinion, comes across as, hey, I bought property in this area before. This is roughly the price I've been paying per acre or per lot. You know, are you trying to get on board with this? I'll make it easy. I'll make it simple for you, et cetera, et cetera. Now, because of that, I get a lot more people responding to me, but people who they know what I'm looking to pay. And just because I say, let's just go back to my example, 500 to 1,000. Actually, that's not, I haven't used that price range in a really long time, but whatever, easy numbers. And let's just say after talking to the person, I find out the property has a lot less value than I thought. So then, even though I offer 500,000, I still have the wiggle room to be like, hey, I can only offer you 250 for this property, because the thing that we discussed, you know, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, you know, it has a big old ancient Indian burial ground right in the middle of it. I can't offer you more than this 250. But because I offered a range, they know negotiation is part of the process, and you know, it is what it is. So I think that's better, and it works really well. Now, with that said, it doesn't matter what the price is. I mean, unless you're going to fast deal for pay, if your process of getting the property is complicated, convoluted, and it puts a lot of work on the seller, the easier you make it for that seller to sell to you, and the more value you add in that process, the more deals you can do. And guess what? You can also offer a lower price in the name of, hey, I don't mind doing all the hard work and the heavy lifting, but because of that, you're going to give me the property for a price that maybe you weren't considering until I told you about the issues you have with title, or all the people that we're going to have to get to sign off on this, and the paperwork I have to create to make sure the transfer goes properly. And, you know, whatever else that comes with, like, oh, look, there's a bunch of trash on the property and you don't want to deal with it. I will deal with it, but because I have to deal with it, I'm going to offer you a lot less. Things like that. So when you offer that range, you can do that. But again, if you are not making the process simple and painless and quick for the seller, it doesn't matter what offer letter type that you do, they're not going to do it, because look, selling that property is not a high priority for them for the most part. Yes, they're tired of paying taxes on it. Yes, they wish it was done with, but it's not so much pain where they're like, I'm willing to do all this uncomfortable paperwork and learning things I don't want to learn to get this process done. So make sure you guys understand that. Doesn't matter what type you use, even though I do think the offer range is the best. Make sure you understand that if the process is convoluted, it's confusing or scary to them, they are not going to buy. Okay, so far, that good? Are we digging this? We good? Any questions about that? All right, cool. Looking to make sure, no questions. Awesome. All right, moving on. So I get this a lot, and I understand for people who are new to the real estate investing game, these questions are tough, because they're the ones that are the first ones you come across, right? So like if you're still getting your feet wet within land investing or just investing in general, like choosing a market, your best marketing channels, tools for building and processing all the stuff, your marketing sequence, like you have all these questions. A lot of these questions are coming before you're ready to answer them. So like, for example, if you haven't bought your first property yet, it does me no good or you any good for me to tell you, hey, when you finally get something, sell it on this platform. You got to cross the bridges as you come to them. You can't cross bridges before you get there, right? So don't put the cart before the horse and all these other things that have a similar meaning. So when it comes to market selection, what surprises most people from my approach is that I let my budget dictate where I invest. Why can I do that? Well, as I said before, and I say it again, I say it all the time, all land sells. So it doesn't matter how good or bad you think the property is. If you price it properly, somebody's going to buy it. With that information in mind, I let my budget tell me, hey, if I have, let's just say for the sake of easy numbers, $1,000 to invest in property, that's just for the property itself. That doesn't include, outreach with mailers or a text campaign or different tools like PropStream or DataTree or anything like that. It's just for the property itself. I know that if I can buy something for 1,000, I should be able to sell it for 3, 4, 5,000, around that range. So I'm like, okay, where can I go where people are actively selling property for 3 or 4 or 5,000, depending on, how thick your margins are and how aggressive you are with your sales. And that will let me know exactly where I should be focusing my time and effort. Now, I did this recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, where I kind of went through the whole thing. So I won't go through and share my screen again, but if you want that, a link to that live stream, let me know, put in the comments. I will definitely send you the link to it. I have a whole training on it, actually. Maybe I just send you the training. If you don't have the training yet, let me know. I'll send it to you. That way you can kind of see it for yourself, how the details of that process goes. But as I said, I let my budget dictate where I go. Because as I said before, all land sells. Now, one thing to look out for is if you are in a lower budget area, make sure the area is not flooded with Zillow or LandWatch or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or wherever you're doing your research, that it's not a ton of people selling property for like rock bottom prices. So if I go to an area and I'm like, okay, I got 1,000 to invest, that means I should sell 3, 4, 5,000. I should see the lowest price around $4,000, right? I shouldn't be able to find anything lower in that area on that platform. So if I'm on Zillow, if I sort from low to high, I shouldn't see any property under $4,000, for example. Now, you may see 1 or 2, and they could be considered outliers, but if I see a bunch, it's a red flag, because now it's a race to the bottom for price, and people cannot sell the stuff fast enough. And basically the price that you acquired at will be the price you're going to have to sell for. So you just wasted your time. So if you're looking at places where they sell the desert squares, so, a lot of newbies go like New Mexico and some places in Colorado, Nevada, not that you can't sell for good prices there. Don't get me wrong. All land sells everywhere. You will make money. But if you're at places where a lot of newbies are, you may have a little bit more competition when you are trying to move property. But why am I talking about that before you even have the property? Because here's the thing. If you already know that properties take time to move in a certain area, why would you put yourself in a position to buy a property that's going to be hard to sell? Why would you spend money on mailers and texting and spend your time and energy getting a property that, now that you have it, like, all right, now I got to go through this grind to sell it, against all these other people who have the same exact thing I have, who are selling it for a price lower than what I was planning to sell it for. And that's an uphill battle. So I'll always look at, hey, what are other people selling property for right now? Are they having a tough time moving it? Are things happening quickly or are they happening slowly? I'll let that affect my decision, because if I find one area that sells property for $4,000 or $5,000, I know I can find another one. So never get married to one single area. Now, with that said, you never know what's going to happen until you actually start to put offers out there. So go ahead, put your blind or your offer range out there right now. See what you can kind of get in a certain area, and then start making conversations with people. Start adding value to their lives by getting rid of this problem that they have. And the problem may not just be the property. It could be, and we don't know who inherited it because grandma died and there was no will and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sorry I'm getting distracted because I'm getting a bunch of text messages in from people looking to continue our conversation and trying to sell me property and, see if we can get something going at a good price. Anyways, now, once you start making these, I guess, a list of places where you want to invest in your property, you got to figure out how you're going to build a list of owners of people that you want to start to contact and communicate with. Now, most people use a tool like DataTree or PropStream, but if you don't have the money for that and you have a ton of time in your hands, you can easily build the list by hand for free using publicly available sources like the county's assessor site. I do it I used to do it all the time. And then I got smart and got I've always done it this way. As a software engineer, I let the computer kind of do it for me, but it just does the process I'm about to explain to you now. All I do is I find an area I like. And once I find the area I like, go to that county's assessor site, see if I can look up a property that I found that was for sale on Zillow, for example, or LandWatch or Craigslist or wherever it is, right? Hopefully there has enough information to give me an idea of where that property is. If I can't find it from like an APN or a subdivision or something like that, then maybe I can find it on the map and then kind of compare the county GIS map with the property listing. Why am I doing that? Just so I can see, okay, if this person is selling the property for a certain price and it happens to be in this particular area, well, then I know I can sell a property at that same price in that same area. Follow me so far? Okay, good. Now, once I do that, the way most counties' websites are, you can actually just kind of browse one by one each plot of land, especially in the GIS site. Copy you click on the parcel, you copy the owner's name and address, maybe some information about the land, like, okay, it's this size and, it's zoned this, and, maybe you want to add that information, but that doesn't really matter at this moment. Take the owner's name and address. Take note if it's like, hey, this person lives in the area or this person lives away from the property. They live in the area, the likelihood of you getting that property cheap is not great. But if they don't live near the area, that's perfect. If they live out of state, even better. Add those people to your list. And if you really want to get a deal ASAP, and you really want to make sure you don't pay much for it, look up that person's current tax status. See how much they may owe in property tax for that property or all their properties. If they owe more than $100, or it's been a couple of years since they paid their property tax, then they don't want the property or they totally forgot about it. Now think of it this way. It's year 2022. People are now paying stuff for 2021. Well, now it's August, maybe 2022 property tax is coming. Some counties, they don't send that out until October. But anyways, if they owe for a year or less, or maybe less than 2 years, I don't consider them delinquent. They're just a little lazy, a little slow in paying their taxes, but it's not going to be much. But let's say since it's 2022, the last time they paid was 2020 or 2019. Now they're delinquent. Now these are people you really want to talk to first because they're more likely to sell at the price that you want. And all you got to do is use your tax status to kind of grease the wheels a little bit. Anyway, as I go one by one, I just go to list, put in a spreadsheet, and I just start, either get that list skip traced, meaning I get somebody to find me, since I have their name and address, I'll get somebody to give me their addresses, or excuse me, their phone numbers and maybe a current address. Or I can do that myself with websites like truepeoplesearch.com or other skip tracing where you can look things up one by one. And then I start contacting, be it text messaging, mailer, whatever it is, and then have those conversations. So like, I wouldn't worry too much about where am I going to sell this property and how much am I going to sell it for if I'm not going to actually, don't worry about that until you have it. Now, to kind of put a bow on both this and the offer range and all that, and how do I come up with the offer prices? Well, I kind of hinted at it already. If I have $1,000 to spend, that's pretty much going to be my offer price. Or maybe I'll cut it in half depending on what I'm trying to do. Maybe if I have $1,000, I usually will say between 500 and like 1,000 or 500 900 or something like that, just to say what I have. Now, again, if I know property is retailing for around $3,000-4,000, I'm confident of my offer price or offer price range of 500 to 1,000. If property is retailing for much more than that, let's say it's retailing for 10, my offer price of 1,000 probably won't fly. And most people will probably look at me like I'm high on crack. So you got to understand, again, what the area is like and what you can get away with. That person owes back taxes. Guess what? I may not even give it an offer. I'm like, hey, I know you owe taxes. Maybe I can take that property off your hand and pay the taxes on your behalf. You ain't got to worry about it. Sometimes that works well, and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the property. It depends on an offer price. Now, when it comes to like a marketing sequence and things like that, again, I'll talk about that at a different time. But right now, if you have not gotten your first property, it is time to focus on building that list and getting offers out. You don't know what's going to happen until you actually start doing it. And without doing it, you're just a big talker, right? You're dealing with human beings here. So just because you do the research and you have a good offer price or offer range and everything looks great, doesn't mean things will work as you expect. People go through different emotions. They go through different seasons. So somebody who would be willing to sell in March, maybe by the time you contact them in June, life situation changed. They don't have the time to deal with you, or they don't want to sell, or something else happened. And then talk to them again in October, life changed again. Like, all right, yeah, I kind of do want to sell now. I don't know what I was thinking back in June. Right. So you're always dealing with people. So you won't know until you try. And that's going to be the biggest thing. In my opinion, getting reps of getting offers out, doesn't even if the offers are terrible, getting them out there. Having a system where you can keep yourself organized. I can offer suggestions, and I do for my coaching clients, but everybody's different. You're going to have something that maybe you already have a tool that you can already incorporate. Maybe you need to do things by pen and paper or simple spreadsheets. You know, we're all different. So I'll save you, my recommendations at this moment. But the point is, once you start putting offers out there, you can start seeing how you get yourself organized, how you like to talk to the owners, what things you like, what things you don't like. And then you can really start to refine and hone in on your technique and your personal strategy. Once you do that, a deal is only a matter of time, especially if you use the principles of, hey, I'm going to use my budget to dictate where I invest. I talk to enough people. Somebody out there is going to want to sell me the property at the price I want. I just got to keep going. The more people you talk to every day, the quicker that first deal is going to happen. If you talk to a few people every day, not enough. Talk to a lot of people every day, that deal is going to happen real soon. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. New comment. Question. Okay. You always mentioned that part of the job is help sellers with their land issues. What is the first thing I should do to resolve sellers' land issues? If it's a little complicated, such as a trust estate or chain of title issues. All right. Let me answer that question first. So the first thing that you should do is you got to understand exactly what the real problem is. Because a lot of times, I would say the vast majority of times, people who own the property, whether they are the original owners or they inherited it, they don't understand anything about the real estate process or land in general. So they may think they know, but they don't, right? So the first thing you got to do is look up the original deed that gave the person in question possession of the property. So let's say it was John Smith and you're talking to John Smith, see how he got the property. And then you can do a chain that way. Make sure there's no liens and things like that. But let's say John Smith has passed away and you're talking to John Smith Jr. Well, look to see if, hey, does the county have any record of John Smith Jr. inheriting that property? Be it from probate, which is just a court order saying, hey, John Smith died. This is who gets all of his stuff. Or maybe it was a sale, a quick sale deed, something. If there's nothing there, we got to see how we can get the property into John Smith Jr.'s name before anything. And depending on the circumstances, that will dictate a lot. Now, if there's a weird thing like a trust, something like that, a lot of this stuff comes down to just a little bit of know-how. So for example, if it's a trust, the land's in a trust, that's just a private agreement between the people, the trustees. And once you see the trust, you can see who the trustees are. Never take anybody's word for it that they're a trustee. You got to look it up yourself. And that information is recorded. You look it up and you look and see, okay, John Smith Jr. is not a trustee. He can't sell. He doesn't have the authority according to this trust. But Jane Smith is a trustee. I can talk to her and she wants to sell, great. But I have to get Jane Smith's sign off on the deed, the new deed that will send it from Jane to me. What other things, trust, estate, or chain titles, all these things come from just understanding how this works. And in a nutshell, the county where the land resides have to have some sort of record that a person owns the property. Doesn't matter if someone's been paying property tax on for many years. In some places, that kind of gives them de facto ownership after 30 years or something crazy like that. But if the county does not have proof that somebody owns a property, you're not legally allowed to buy it from that person, even if technically they should have it. So your job is going to be, how do we give the county the proof that the person I'm dealing with owns the property? Sometimes it's as simple as recording a document that was recorded in a different county, but not in the property's county. Sometimes it's understanding that, hey, this person died and we got to do like an affidavit of heirship to show that, okay, the son now owns it because he was the only kid. There's no more wife. He's the only person left, right? And you show the county, the family history. And so the state law can kind of dictate, okay, well, according to state law, this person owns the property. Same thing with trust, but it's just kind of understanding that. Now to go on, should we hire an attorney, a title company, which costs a lot of money and it might not be practical when to buy 2,000 and sell for 6,000? So for the issues I was just talking about, no, it is not practical to use an attorney or a title company for these cheap lots. A lot of these problems are solved with a little bit of knowledge and know-how. And it's not, and again, it's not like you got to be a lawyer to understand what the rules are. So the first thing I would do is look up whatever state you're investing in, look up like their, I wouldn't call them real estate laws, but like I call them intestate, is that how you probably, intestate laws and things like that, successionship laws, inheritance laws, things like that. A lot of law companies, and they'll put a blog out about these issues to kind of give you an idea of what's really going on, and then you can look them up further. Every single state has a database of all laws, period, where you can look up criminal and civil things so you can kind of see what goes on. So you can look things up yourself. You don't got to ever take anybody's word for it. You can see it with your own two eyes. But once you start getting properties that are, you know, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 buy-in, then yeah, it's not a big deal to get an attorney or a title company. When you start getting these more expensive properties, sometimes the value add is hiring the probate attorney and having them, you know, you got to pay a couple of $1,000 for them to do the work. But in general, a lot of the work is pretty similar. And once you see it done once, you can do it yourself. You don't got to be a lawyer to draft up a legal document, right? You don't have to be a lawyer to understand, hey, okay, this is the rules for how property is transferred, so I just got to follow those rules. Sure, they are supposed to know those rules a little better than the average person, but just because someone's a lawyer don't mean they're good at what they do. And one time I had a guy acted as if he knew what was going on. He was a lawyer in Arizona. The property was in Nevada. He didn't have a license to practice law in Nevada. So just because somebody's a lawyer doesn't mean they know what the fuck they're doing. You just got to understand the laws yourself. In fact, you want to know the laws, even if you are hiring a lawyer or a title company, so you can make sure that things are done properly. Everybody's human. The lawyer may make mistakes, even if his heart's in the right place. The title people at the title company, they may make mistakes, especially because they're not doing the work. They're outsourcing that work to lawyers and abstractors and different professionals. So you want to know this anyways. But yeah, I definitely don't do those. I don't hire anybody for these cheaper lots. I do it myself. But to do that, you got to understand some of the law. And I do teach that stuff. But like, if you're not comfortable with it, stick to higher value properties, and then and if you don't have the cash for it, use a funder. Yeah. So how do you see? Yeah. So I think I answered your question, Sean. The goal is this: when you add value, you have to have this here. You got to understand the law. That's how you can add value. Your expertise. The expertise is not hard to come by. It's not some shrouded in secrecy or a mystery. There's books out there that you can get, that you can read right now and be a better position than a lot of land investors out there who just throw money blindly at title companies and things like that. I should write one. I definitely should write one of those books. There was a couple that's recommended. I do not remember them now because I never ended up buying them, but maybe I should just to be safe. Or what you can also do is befriend some of the title companies, find out their process, because a lot of people, they'll just tell you what they do anyways and what they know, and you can kind of use that. And also, as you do more and more deals, there are a lot more deals out there that will kind of give you that background knowledge. Final thing, let's say you find a property, it's a cheaper property, there's an issue that you're not comfortable looking up the title chain or whatever it is. because you're not using my help, cool. There's so many land deals out there. You don't got to deal with it. Just say, sorry, I just can't deal with this. I'm not equipped to. Maybe refer them to me because I can deal with it. And then find a deal that's going to be easier. There's a lot of deals out there where it's going to be straightforward, slam dunk, like one owner, single person, he's still alive, she's still alive, they want to sell for a cheap price, done. Plenty of those deals are out there as well. So I wouldn't let it bother you. So yeah, hopefully that, I was a little bit of all over the place with that answer, but hopefully that helps you out, Sean. Looks like it did. Awesome. All right, guys, I am out of time. And as always, if you want my coaching or help, let me know. Send me a DM. We could book a time. I can let you know what it looks like to help you do your land investing thing at a high level with the accountability and the structured game plan that you may need to make sure you accomplish something every week and get a deal ASAP. So far, my record is getting somebody from zero experience in real estate at all to flipping their first parcel was 4 weeks. Pretty good. It's pretty good. And they made profit. Absolutely. So if you want to see if you can break that 4-week record, hit me up. I would love to see how I can help you make your land investing dreams come true. Because once you start to invest in land, you'll look at your 9-to-5 job like it's dumb. And next thing you know, you'll be doing this full time, and you too can spend a lot of your daytime hours messing around the computer for a few hours and then looking at like YouTube clips or whatever it is, or porn or whatever you like. I'm not here to judge. Anyways, that's it for me. Hopefully you guys have a good one. Hopefully you found this useful. But yeah, until next time, peace out.